Live on a Sunday night. See, Rottweiler Dude and Luke. Hello, 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 hello. So just gotta mix my drink. Did my normal stuff. I had plenty of time. It's like 20 minutes before the stream. Not doing much anything. Just killing time while waiting for the train to start. And then I did a couple things. Lost track of time. So rushing to make my drink. Slightly different from the ones I've been making, still going the blood orange, but it's actually with, it's fresh blood orange juice I squeezed myself today. And it's a slightly different color, which is interesting. Oh, fuck, it's good. Yum. I did put some of the grenadine in as well. Musical Aviator, hello. I'm going to show you the juicer that I was using to squeeze the blood orange. I'll see if I can get it without making a mess. It kind of looks like a murder scene. It's not just that it's red, although it looks a bit orange on the screen there. It's not just that it's red. It's kind of pulpy and meaty, like there's been some terrible murder happen here. Hey, Donna, how are you? Well, cruising into our Sunday night. Woof, back for another week. Come here. And hello, Invisible Chicken. I wonder if Ace is going to be here. I'm going to send him a massage because he wasn't available on Friday night when we had our big party. The very, very Brady Bunch style thing. And he was available last night, but I was having date night last night, so I wasn't live. So I don't know where he's tonight, but I will send him a massage, as they say, and see if I can find out what is happening with him. I'll just send him a little message that it's happening and that he can join. That's all good. So that's done. Nice. Yes, Luke, we did have 10 people on Friday, and it was good. Mr. Gonzo, hello to you as well. Rottweiler Dude, do you think it looks like a habanero sauce? It looks very interesting, and I'm going to make. I filled a little bottle with it, and there's still some in here that I am going to make a Rolling Stones inspired drink with a little bit later, just for a laugh, because as I put in the title of this, today is actually the anniversary of the Rolling Stones' first ever show. It was in 1962, so almost 60 years ago. And they're still kicking around in one form or another, 60 years on. So it's a happening old thing. But yeah, when I looked up, what's happened, what's on this day, straight up was cocktail of the day. Jumpin' Jack Flash did their first gig on this day in 1962 at the Marquee Club in London's Oxford Street. And they've probably performed thousands of times since then. So I like the sound of this cocktail, actually. A Jumpin' Jack Flash. The Ingredients, a whiskey, they say Tennessee whiskey. I think I can cope with using. In fact, what could I use? I could use Rittenhouse Rye. I think I might use an Australian whiskey. I might use my Starward Twofold. And banana liqueur and Galliano. And again, I can improvise. Galliano is like a vanilla with anise overtones. And I've got another vanilla alcohol, liquor 43. And I could put just a splash of absinthe in for the anise to approximate Galliano. And then fresh squeezed orange juice. And I don't think the Rolling Stones would be averse to me putting blood orange juice in and some pineapple juice as well. I think that sounds like quite an interesting drink, actually. And I'm going to make it a little bit later. So that's the thing. I'm going to make some cocktail videos this week. I only made one last week. One thing and another stuff was just piling up. I don't have any very good reasons. I'm just going to adjust my camera a tiny amount. I don't have any very good reasons for not making more, but normally I try to make at least 2 cocktail videos a week and I only made one last week. So I'm just, for the sake of it, I'm going to try and make 3 this week because that's the kind of guy I am. And the next obvious thing, if I'd gotten organized a bit sooner, I might have made a video of this one, the Jumpin' Jack Flash, and put it up today, but I didn't. So if I look at the next couple of days, some interesting anniversaries and whatnot. It's actually the anniversary of the Hollywood sign, although it originally said Hollywoodland. Was actually just a real estate thing. And then it fell into ruin. And there was actually a fundraiser by some movie stars like, hey, let's get everyone to kick in and repair the sign. And then ever since then, the sign's been maintained. Like it really fell to shit. The Hollywood sign fell to shit at one point. But ever since there was this big thing about, no, it's important to our town, Hollywood, it's been maintained ever since. Fletcher, hello. Good evening to you. So I could do one for that tomorrow, Hollywood. And they actually have an interesting looking cocktail for that as well, called the Hollywood, which I haven't seen before. Light rum, grapefruit juice, grenadine, and an egg white. Actually sounds pretty good. But I don't think so, because the 14th, that's a big one. That's Bastille Day, the French National Day. So there are some fairly obvious things you can do for France. Fletcher, you're in New South Wales, the other side of the wall. Give it time, man. That outbreak that's been traced to a pub out west, Casula. That's right. There's a pub in Casula near Campbelltown. I'm seeing writing on the wall there. I'll go out. Oh God, I've actually got to clean up. When I was squeezing my blood orange juice, I tried to do them. I'll show you this thing. This is what the cool kids use. Oh, and there's still a bit of lime in it. Apparently, the nickname for this is the bartender's elbow, because it bends like an elbow. And you put your citrus in here and bring that down like that and squeezes it and squeezes it. That's what the trendy kids use. This is the trendy bar guy things. And I tried to do that with the blood oranges, but they're a bit too big. And when I saw it, it just split and squashed and sprayed. And because it's blood orange juice, it looked like a mess. I thought I got most of it, but there's a bunch of it here. And it's going to be really sticky and hard to get off. I need to wipe what I've just seen. Yes, Fletcher, well, that Casula pub, besides being a biker pub, which I'll take your word for it, apparently also frequented by interstate truckers. It's a watering hole for interstate truckers who, after they go there and get exposed to people who have the Rona, then travel interstate and stop in other places. So here's my potentially outrageous prediction at the moment. Give New South Wales 2 to 4 weeks, and they'll be facing the same situation we're facing in Victoria, in Melbourne specifically. That's my prediction. This Casula-based outbreak is going to get very serious. Pete, what's my favorite stones? Early stuff, probably. I mean, who says the latest stuff is their favorite? I mean, they released so many good songs. They really did. I've never been a huge Stones fan, but when you look at it, like, they're incredibly influential. And The yeah, the early stuff, and because they actually had, particularly in the early days, they had quite a lot of variety in what they did. God, pinning down something in particular. I'm going to cheat and get a list of their best known ones. Doing a Google search, best Rolling Stone songs. What do people think are the best songs? Start Me Up. That's kind of a cliche. Brown Sugar. Okay. Harlem Shuffle. Yeah. Say Rock and Roll. Mixed Emotions. Angie. Tumbling Dice. Fool to Cry. Rockin' a Hard Place. Miss You. Hot Stuff. Emotional. What? Okay, there's one. Wild Horses is a good one. I mean, like I said, they have a lot of good songs. Waiting on a Friend. That's a good one. There is so much to choose from their catalogue, their oeuvre, whichever way you want to put it. You can't always get what you want. Is a good one. And even the one that, the drink that I'm going to make is named after Jumpin' Jack Flash. Oh, and of course, okay, the classic, Satisfaction. I do actually love. That's one of their early classics. And I do like it. But I mean, seriously, there's so much in their catalog that is good. Pete, you love the Get Your Yayas Out live concert. Yes, Fletcher. They were very cheeky in the early days. Donna, you love Sympathy for the Devil. That is a good one. They have so much good stuff. Enjoy this every mouth. I've enjoyed, I've had bottled blood orange juice from the supermarket. I feel like this does taste different. Fresh squeezed one does taste different, but they both taste good. I'm a fan. What's that on my fucking microphone? Thought it was a bug. It's just a bit of fluff that somehow floated and landed on, and I just threw it on the floor because I'm an animal. That's okay. I promise to clean up later. So yes, Rolling Stones. Like I said, never been specifically a huge Rolling Stones fan. In that old thing about, it tells a bit about your personality if you prefer the Rolling Stones or the Beatles. I actually probably prefer the Beatles, but again, I'm not a mad Beatles fan either. But yes, just I guess with my sensibilities, land more with the Beatles than the Rolling Stones. But it's a thing. So either is good. Fletcher, going to move like Jagger. That would be among the more embarrassing things in history if I tried to move like Jagger. Honestly, it's bad enough when he does it. Ooh, Invisible Chicken, some plum nectar. That would go nice with a few things, I think. Donnie, oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Where I am, a lockdown in Melbourne. We are only supposed to leave home for necessary things. Like if you have to go to work, you can't work from home. If you need to get food or something similar that you have to get, you're not supposed to just casually swan out to the shops, but like going to get food you need is acceptable. And if you're for healthcare, either for yourself or if you're going to care for someone else, that's also a legitimate reason to leave the house. Or you're allowed to go for daily exercise in your local neighborhood so long as you socially distance. So you can't do, like, gyms are all closed. You can't do group workouts. You can't sort of play team sport. But you go for a walk or whatever, which is what I do regularly with Mrs. Angry. At the moment, Melbourne is the only place with strict rules like that. Everyone else had strict rules like that. and have dropped them to much less restrictive things. As we were speculating earlier, I think Sydney's within 2 to 4 weeks of getting a very nasty uptick in cases, as we started to experience like 2-3 weeks ago. I think that's very likely. So we shall see. We shall see. Fletcher, Joanna Lumley was married to Mick Jagger. I did not know that, actually. Oh, is that how was Joanna Lumley originally a model, or was she always an actor? I remember the first time I was aware of her was in the 70s when she was in the BBC series The New Avengers, which is a campy sort of spy action thing. Fletcher, they're bringing rules back in New South Wales. Which rules are coming in New South Wales? Donna, okay, you think we'll have herd immunity before we need a vaccine. What herd immunity means is 70 to 80% of the population have contracted the virus and so have antibodies for the virus. When you think of those numbers, and we've seen what happens when you get outbreaks, unless we control how that happens, and that basically probably means like occasionally releasing restrictions and then its transmissions start again, then you tighten restrictions before it gets out of control. Because alternatively, you get the situation, I mean, Italy springs most to mind, where there is such a surge in cases, hospitals overwhelmed, and the death rate spikes to like 10%. And then it ends up not just being from COVID, but it's because of the hospitals are overwhelmed. So other medical conditions that would otherwise have been treated don't get treated. So people who wind up in an emergency medical situation don't get medical care and they die where normally they would have lived or stood a good chance of living. So, and not to be too bleak, but that looks very much like what large sections of the United States are going to be facing in 2 to 4 weeks. It's a fuck ton of people dying. Like, even if you kept the fatality rate to about 1%, 1 to 2%, which if there's a surge and stuff is out of control, is not actually like, take the US, for example, 320 million people. So if three quarters of the people have, the herd immunity happens, 3/4 of the people have contracted the virus. So that's, let's do some very rough mathematics. That's about, what would 3/4 of the population be? 320, 160, 240 million people have contracted the virus. Now, if 240 million people have contracted the virus because we didn't have a vaccine, which is actually extremely likely that we don't get a vaccine. So if 240 million people contracted the virus and it never ever spiraled out of control, which, is wishful thinking. You look at what's happening. It's about to get very nasty. But pretend you managed to keep it to 1 to 2% of the population over the next year, say. The absolute best case scenario, and the chances of America experiencing a best case scenario are very, very, very small. They're much more likely to see a worst case scenario. But if they had a best case scenario, that means over the next year, 2 to 4 million people dying. And that is literally the best case scenario in the absence of a widely available vaccine. And then you have to worry about the friggin' anti-vaxxers in America and the conspiracy nuts who say they're not going to take any vaccine that comes out. So that's what America is looking at as a best case scenario over the next 12 months is 2 to 4 million deaths, which is pretty fucking full on. Hey, Charlie, how's it going? You came in a really cheery bit of conversation. I am really disturbed the degree to which people are still in denial about how serious this is. But it is what it is. What we're seeing is people won't believe it till after it happens. So it's like, fucking, okay, cool. Here's the thing, it's just such a contagious disease that it is realistic to expect that over the next year or so, 70 to 80% of the population will contract the virus. In the absence of a vaccine or much more effective treatments than we've seen so far, there's a few drugs about that are seen to be quite promising in terms of treatment, as in alleviating symptoms, reducing the chance of death in critical cases. But yeah, without a vaccine or a really significant improvement in treatment options, the best case scenario is really fucking bad. And that is the best case. I think there's a whole bunch of countries around the world, Australia and New Zealand among them, who can hold out hope of a best case scenario, even in the absence of a vaccine or a improved treatment. And in Australia's case, that would make a best case scenario. See, what have we got? 25 million people, a couple 100,000 dead. And that's that's a best case outcome. Unless we do control it and we keep our borders closed and we somehow completely change our economy to work on really quite extreme limits to travel in and out of the country, which is a really radical change. Who knows? Oh, Fletcher, that's old school. The Andromeda. I think it was called the Andromeda Strain. That's an early Michael Crichton story, the guy who did Jurassic Park. The Andromeda Strain about a horrible, deadly virus is a Michael Crichton story. Yeah, Pete, get a bubble, dude. Get a bubble. Yeah, see, Donna, that's why I do this. Don't have to go out. Going to hang out like this. Oh, I'm missing it. I was just saying this with Mrs. Angry earlier today. It's like, yeah, we're going to, okay. I think the people who find the isolation the most difficult are people who are completely alone. Oh, sorry. How long have you been sitting there, big guy? How long have you been sitting there?
I've been sitting there for approximately 30 seconds and I'm finding the isolation unbearable because I'm allowed out anytime I want.
All right, that's fair.
See people. Well, because all I say is I'm going for important medicine.
Yes. This is the man
like
with...
you've got to give him the eyes. Like that. And you've got to be slow about it.
Yeah. This is the man with no immune system who has to be extra careful.
What's that?
I said, you're the man with no immune system who has to be extra careful.
And I don't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Which, shit's boss of the house, who's going to be called Poo-Poo Nick from now on.
Can I call out the big thing? AIDS's got teeth. Oh, and you got something in your teeth as well. But you've got...
Oh, shit.
Yeah. No, other side. There you go. Yeah.
Shit, sorry.
That's the classic.
Know what that is?
Bit of greenery?
Vegetation.
Yeah.
I ate vegetables.
There you go. So, well, that's a big thing. Yeah.
Like
so
it's no big deal that I ate vegetables.
No, that's a thing.
Anyway, yes, I've got teeth back. Fuck, wasn't that an ordeal? And I changed up all my cigarettes so that they work and I've got juice. And what else did I do that was a bit phenomenal? I touched a pony.
That's okay.
And I got onto the CBD marijuana, and it's this. I'll fucking get it off its little house. I've got to get it off its little house. Just give me 2 seconds.
So we're just going to, if that you're saying what I think you're saying, unless you got this on medical basis, I don't know, isn't that illegal?
It's perfectly legal.
It
It
is?
is perfectly legal.
All right.
Because of the way it's imported, and because of the way it's sold, and because of the way it's mixed, it is guaranteed to have no stoning effects. You suck it down, and your anxiety goes away, and your mind stays straight. Now we're going to experiment with that on tonight's live stream. So here we go. Experiment number 1.
I don't know. I was just thinking, keep it on the down low, because I think you'll find, because I know a lot of CBD concoctions are specifically concocted to have no THC, so you theoretically don't get high. I believe you'll still fail a drug test.
This is why I'll be telling Dr. Dev that I have been switching over to that to get off the benzos. And he will be...
We do have the most groundbreaking medical marijuana experiments in Australia, though, I think, in Melbourne. A secret location growing the hydro for the high quality shit.
Which is where this comes from.
Yeah, Dan Andrews
comes from.
Dan Andrews did a little publicity walk around of the lab. And if you look at the path it followed in America, we'd be into legalization in 5 years, because they went from it's the devil's weed to, oh, okay, you can have it for medical reasons. And they got to the stage, the story, I loved it. There's a person, like all you had to do was go to a dispensary and have someone there who would say that whatever you said was a medical reason. My personal favorite is, I have anxiety because I'm anxious at the thought of not getting any prescribed weed. And the doctor goes, I've got a perfect prescription for that anxiety. The system works.
The system works, baby.
But
the system works.
More than half the US has legalized medical weed now, and an increasing number of states have legalized recreational weed.
Well, the ACT of Australia, when they were made a state against their will,
yes,
the cops who were now ACT cops, not dead feds.
Yeah.
And by the way, when they went from Fed cops to ACT cops, they fired everybody.
Yeah.
Sent them all back to the feds, and then opened applications. So the guys who were used to be coppers had to reapply for their jobs, and a lot of them didn't get them.
Ooh.
Like a lot of them were, no, mate, you've been on the take for about 20 years. You can piss off.
Yeah.
And a lot of them come in and said, oh, may I have a job? I'm happy to start as constable. Dickhead, you're our best homicide detective we've got. You're honest, you're clean, your record is spotless. You're going to be heading up Team 3. Oh, really? That's a promotion? Yes, and it comes with an extra $100,000. Welcome aboard. And so they cleaned up in one fell swoop by firing everybody and rehiring. And then the cops got together and said, right, this is our budget. And they came to the Australian, the ACT government and said, okay, guys, it's like this. We can enforce your murder laws, or we can enforce your marijuana laws. Not both.
Can't do both.
Pick one. With the money we've got, and we know you don't have any more money. We are aware of this.
Yeah.
Pick one, and we will be happy to enforce it. And so they said, why don't we enforce the murder laws? And so they said, fine. So they decriminalised it. It remains decriminalised. You get a SCON, which is an acronym, but it's a fine. It's $100 fine if you get caught with more than 3 plants in your backyard, if you get caught smoking openly inside, if you get caught smoking openly near children, if you got caught passing a bong around in a park in daylight near children. But what'll often happen is you'll get kids in the park in the dark passing a bong around and just chatting, chilling. Cops will come around and go, hey guys, how you doing? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Did you drive here? Yes. Okay, that's an issue. Who drove? Me. I'm designated driver. I'm not partaking tonight. I'm getting all these miscreants home. Oh, good. Do you mind licking this? Not at all. Lick, lick. Yeah, okay, there's nothing there. Okay, so you've got everyone's keys. Here's the key bag. We like your action. And so they'll basically come back and say, right, I want you to ring, and they'll write on their card, this number, if you get into trouble, if anyone hassles you, if anyone bothers you, do that. Don't drive. Don't give anyone's keys back until you get them home. And they love that. And then there's other kids there. They go, oh, how are you getting home? Bus. You know the last bus goes at 11, right? Yeah. We've got our alarm set for 10. Why 10? Because we reckon it'll take us an hour to get to the depot. But it's only 400 metres away. I know. That's a long way. And there's a Macca's in between here and there. You just don't know. You just don't know. And the police will say, set your alarm for 9:30. And yeah, they're really cool. They're really protective of the smokers. Of the dealers, not so
much. No.
Not so much. It's more, I require you to turn around now and present both of your hands to me. I require you to get it back in the back of the paddy wagon.
Yeah.
So what happened was there was a moral outrage at this, and everyone was going to die, and the school was going to fall in, and penises would drop off, and women would rule, and it didn't. Everybody went to work on Monday. Everybody watched Channel 9 News on 6 o'clock. The world kept on going. No one turned up to work stoned that didn't already.
Yes.
Bloody DMT rolled through. That's very popular in Canberra. The thing about Canberra that's a little bit secret is that it's got the highest population of society participating IV drug users in Australia.
Right.
So there was a company who was given the contract to do the south side of the needle bin emptying of Canberra. They used the lake as the north side and south side. Okay.
Right. Sure.
So the Parliament House is on the south side.
Yeah.
They came back 3 months later and said, "Listen, we've got to redraw the contract. Parliament House, the needle bins in Parliament House, including and especially the members' areas, are taking up half our time. We have so many needles to collect in Parliament House. Every needle bin is full to overflowing. All of the House members' needle bins are ridiculous. We're going to have to put 3 in each cubicle. Those guys are jamming it so much that it's surprising that any legislation gets through at all.
Yeah.
And you can imagine it, right? 5 days on the trot.
Yeah.
You've got, bloody committees to be on, and you've also got the secret things to do, where you've got to go into the war room and talk about
Yeah.
what the drones are going to hit. And you've also got to order submarines around to look at things that they're not supposed to be looking at. And you've got to order parts from countries on the quiet. So these politicians are often working 3 and 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
So, jamming a little bit of speed.
Yeah. And their staffers as well. It won't just be the actual pollies. It's their staffers as well who work as now. Yeah.
Oh, shit, yes.
Definitely.
Get this done, get that done, get it round, get it here and get it here yesterday. And they're running their ass off. The
Absolutely.
paid politician, public servants running the country, because it doesn't matter which party's in, they've got to make the machine go.
Yes.
And they've got decisions to make that would chill your bones.
Yes.
They've got to send signals to SAS Special Forces that are not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Whereas technically not legal for them to be where they are.
Absolutely illegal.
Yeah.
Absolutely illegal. If they're caught, they're disavowed. They have no insignia upon them. And they all know 3 other languages. And they will swap into one of those languages, not English. And they will be abandoned, because they'll be taken as spies, but they'll be totally abandoned. They will never be rescued. They will never be helped. And they know this going in. So the trick is, don't get caught.
That is a good trick. I just want to say good evening to Stella as well, who came into the chat. And it's interesting what you were saying about the drug laws, cops saying we can't enforce them, and murder. Remind me, a recent case, like just in the last week or so, this New South Wales magistrate resigned, and he said he's like 58. He could have stayed on as a judge till he was 70, but he resigned because he couldn't take it anymore. And he said the biggest reason was the drug driving laws are complete bullshit. People are losing their license because drugs were recorded in their system, and there's no correlation to impairment. Like, drink driving is really straightforward. We know from exhaustive tests how much worse your reactions are when you're at 0.05. And when the drink driving laws came in, there was a reduction in the road toll. When seatbelt laws came in, there was a reduction in the road toll. When the drug driving laws came in, there has been no reduction in the road toll. And it's literally like these, for marijuana, these tests will pick up if you had a joint 2 weeks ago. And there's no fucking way that affects your driving.
And this is it. This is the problem that the police are saying. We are picking up people who had a joint last night, night before.
Yeah.
And the speed tests are the ones they're mostly interested in, because the speed tests are accurate to within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And speed in 24 hours will impair your judgment. People say it doesn't. I drive better when I'm stoned.
No,
You don't.
no.
You don't.
The come down as well, where your reactions are just completely fucked.
You're fried. You're completely fried. So please, people, take it from those who are experienced. The angry, the AIDSy, don't drive when you're stoned. Get a fucking Uber.
Yeah.
They understand. In fact, get a cab and say, listen, mate, I'm completely off my chops. I just need to get home.
Yeah.
Here's my card. I think there's enough money in it. If not, take me as far as the card will say, and then kick me out, and I'll walk home from there.
Yeah.
And some of them will do just that, but a lot of them will take you home. They'll just go, it's $10 more.
Yeah.
Where do you live, mate? Have you got your keys? Are you doing okay? Well, go to bed, mate. No
Yeah.
partying for you. No, it's
Yes.
sort of go to bed. She's
Just
going
noticed.
to say yes. I've got
Yeah.
a broken heart. I'm going to listen to Adele records and cry
Yeah.
myself to sleep.
That's fair. So talking about speed, Stella's saying being fatigued lately would like some pep pills, except when they gave me amphetamines for being a fat fuck, I've had those. I just end up laying on the couch crying, plus didn't lose any weight. Duramine was the prescription amphetamine I had, and it's fucking awesome. But if you take it every day, it will you have to take it before. If you take it after 10 a.m., you're not sleeping that night. You have to remember to take it first thing. And in fact, I was only taking it like every second day, like maybe 3 days a week. And that way I was getting some proper sleep and it was lasting longer. And then you maybe had a couple spare if you had a big party and you really wanted to bang on for 24 hours straight. And I found them to be really effective appetite suppressants. Like, just had no interest in eating, just didn't want to eat, that was not hungry. But there are obviously about 1 million other side effects that can come with amphetamines. And as Stella said, maybe you end up just lying on the floor crying because it's put you into overdrive.
Amphetamines come in all kinds of different flavors and colors. Don't trust the black ones. That was me being racist.
That's what I say. 80's going, but enough about people. Now we'll talk about drugs. Sorry.
But bloody the amphetamines have names. Get on Google, learn those names. No, I'm serious.
No, you are.
Oh, this is crystal methamphetamine. It'll make you talk for hours. Yes, and it'll also addict the shit out of you.
Yes.
You're facing a skeletal crush as you are stealing minerals from your body to keep going. It's basically public enemy number one. There's no moral panic over it. There's a health panic over it. Emergency wards that have no money are building more and more padded cells to throw utterly violent ice freaks into until they calm down in 2 days.
Yeah.
And, Melbourne Hospital's got 5 of these and they need another 5. They cost $100,000 each to make. They're going to be spending $1 million on something they don't need to. Whereas the $1 million could go and save 5 people on the OR.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're offered methamphetamine, it's so tempting because the high is so intense and it lasts for so long and it's so cheap.
Yeah.
But it will fuck you up.
Yeah.
Heroin is not an amazingly great drug for longevity, but thing about it is that 90% of heroin users lead perfectly ordinary middle-class lives.
Yeah.
If you can do that, then I don't know what to say, because whatever. If you can get a good dealer that's got close to medical grade dimorphine, bully for you. But if you're getting street grade nasty grain, fucking Afghan brown with bits in it, ask again.
Not good.
Fucking ecstasy, wonderful drug. One of AZ's favourites. It's a sometimes food. Not every weekend.
Yes.
Not every weekend.
Little kids who need half a dozen every weekend.
Yeah, what'll happen is that your endorphin channels will in fact morph to the point where, without excessive loads of endorphin release drugs, you will never be happy again.
Yeah.
And that's sad. You will always be just glum for the rest of your life. Yes, there are ways to retrain your mind, and they are starting to use them in rehabs. There's no way to rehab ice junkies. They don't know how. They put them on methadone programs, but they don't know. They have no idea if it works. There's no way to reform the happiness pathways in your mind. They're doing it with meditation, hardcore meditation in rehabs, but it's taking 2 years, which means it's very expensive. And admittedly, these people come out with the most disciplined fucking minds you've ever seen. They can concentrate on a fucking nail for fucking 4 hours. They do not, and they make apparently amazing employees. Because if you say, do this report, they go, fine. And they'll read through all the material and type up the entire report. My BF gets Dexy for his ADHD. It's good for getting stuff done. Fuck yes, it is. The other thing you've got to watch with ADHD is motivation, right? Always make sure that the Dexy is in tune with motivation. I had a kid I was training, and he said, I've got ADHD, I've got ADHD, and I can't do this and I can't do that. And I said, bullshit. When you sit down to write a fucking electronic tune, you sit down and 6 hours later you wake up and notice that the sun's gone down and you didn't know the time had gone. It's bullshit. You don't have ADHD, you have motivation. You're not motivated to write. You're not motivated to do maths. You're not motivated to fucking do all this other shit. So what we've got to work on is not your ADHD, but your motivation. And he kept on taking his Dexies and said, yes, they did help him concentrate. I think they were going to put him on modafinil, but that had just come in. And unfortunately, the guy died. Nice guy in the end.
Yeah, I knew who we were talking about there. All right, I'm going to a Rolling Stones inspired drink now that I found, because I don't know if I did say, I'm sure I said to you that it's the anniversary of the first ever Rolling Stones gig today.
Wow.
On this day in 1962, they did their first ever show at the Marquee Club in London.
Wow.
So this is a cocktail called a Jumpin' Jack Flash. It has whiskey, so I'm using my Australian Starward whiskey, which I was just huffing because it has this beautiful, very much like Scotch whiskey, vanilla caramel action going on. It's a very nice aroma, the twofold. Starward do a single malt. Actually, they do 2 different single malts that I haven't tasted, that I might one day, but I've got the twofold. It's actually made with 2 different grains, wheat and barley, I think. Yeah, wheat and malted barley. That's why they call it twofold. So the Jumpin' Jack Flash has... Sorry, what are you after? You're doing it with such trepidation. Oh, that's fair. Because I'm in the kitchen, so it's... Mrs. Angry made some rice pudding here. So, okay, so it's got 1.5 shots of whiskey, half a shot of banana liqueur. Not really sure where that fits in, but I'm just following a recipe.
Yeah, why not?
It says half a shot of Galliano, which I don't have. But Galliano is like a vanilla liqueur with a little bit of anise flavor. So I'm substituting. This is like a vanilla herbal liqueur as well, Liquor 43. So I'm going to do half a shot of this, and I'm going to do just a splash of absinthe to get some anise flavor in there.
I'd go half a jigger, personally.
Yeah, because you're an animal. If one called for half a jig of absinthe, I'd be putting half a jig of absinthe in. But I'm just going to put a splash, like maybe about 1/6 of an ounce.
Yeah, righto.
very strong flavour. And then it's got pineapple juice. So I'm going to put just 3/4 of a shot of pineapple juice. This is a very fruity one. It's also got orange juice. I'm going to put in blood orange juice because I got some blood oranges from the supermarket and I've been juicing them today.
Very nice.
Very good. And the juicer that I was using looks like a murder scene, but there's me jigger. I got to measure it. I think there's 3/4 of an ounce left in this.
Where's Aidsy? I don't know. Would you like a drink?
All right. 3/4 of an ounce of the freshly squeezed blood orange juice. So the picture in the recipe is a very yellow-orange because you're meant to use orange juice. Mine's going to be much redder because I used blood orange juice. So let's all shake, kids. Let's all shake. Get the rhythm happening. Whip it. Pop, 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 pop.
You black people
like the trendy bartenders do. Okay, that's cold as fuck now. So
you could be a Rastafarian with your rhythm.
Yeah, got the rhythm happening.
You could be a Buffalo Soldier.
In the heart of America. No, wait, I need my glass. Right. Yeah, Buffalo Soldiers were actually slaves who were conscripted to fight for the Confederacy, I think. So I didn't know what Buffalo Soldiers were, and I just read it recently, and it was something bad.
Buffalo Soldiers were also useful as conscripts because the Buffalo Soldiers were an army in Africa. The Buffalo army was a losing army, and so the winning side sold the Buffalo Soldiers to the Triangle Trade, and they've turned up in America, and they were noticed straight away to be basically compliant to orders. They were organised. They were initially feared because they thought if we don't catch the leadership very quickly, they could revolt in an organised way. I mean, they were chained, hand, leg, neck chains, leg chains, because it was also shown, because you know how they used to like making black people box one another because it was so much fun watching them beat each other up. The Buffalo Soldiers would just annihilate the enemy, and oftentimes they would kill them. That looks beautiful.
That tastes really good. Oh, that's sorry. And it's just saying wrong things in the wrong chat. That happens when you have multiple chats open, huh?
That's awesome, man.
So it looks very stylish, like I predicted. It's going to be red, whereas the picture on the recipe was very orangey yellow because you're meant to use orange juice, but my blood orange has made it. I don't know, kind of look like a Bloody Mary or something. But
I kind of want one of those. You know those two that I want when I go around to your house? That's the other one.
I tell you what, I keep finding good ones. But yes, definitely a clarified pina colada you need to have. A clarified pina colada is just the absolute best. It is so good. And good evening to Safa as well, joining the chat.
Good evening, Safa. I was going to finish off with the Buffalo Soldiers.
Buffalo Soldiers.
So they basically, formed them up into lines, and the soldiers were going, "Don't know about this," and very quickly, the leadership came to the forward of the lines, and then ordered a U-shape formation as a defensive formation, and the observers watched very, very, very carefully, and they immediately separated the leaders away from the soldiers.
Yeah.
But what distressed them was that a new set of leaders came forward straight away.
Yeah.
Basically, they had a program going that it doesn't matter who gets killed off at the top. There's always a chain of command,
Yeah.
and this bothered the Americans because this was something that they could understand. They could understand a formed army,
Yeah.
and so they didn't really know what to do with them, and they couldn't really put them on a farm together.
Yeah.
Because they've got an instant revolt looking at them. And they had a lot of trouble splitting them up, because when they did that, they just stopped working. And then when they got hit, they just take the hit. And when they got shot, they just take the shot. And they were, tough motherfuckers. And so then the US Civil War came on, and they went, "We've found a place for you boys."
Yeah.
And they put him in the thick, and they got through. See, the thing is that's really fucking horrid is that the Buffalo Soldiers lost 2 battles out of, and you'll shit yourself when you hear this, 257.
Yeah.
Right? They just kept on putting them in the guts of the fire, and they would just get through by stealth, by aggression, and by hold the line, and then break the enemy lines up, waiting for the rest of the forces to come through. They would never, when they were encircled, they would never be rescued. They had to rescue themselves. They were given blunderbuss muskets because they didn't want them to turn on their white masters. So they virtually had to be 3 yards away from their target to shoot them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever been looking down the barrel of a gun and having to walk toward it, but you've really got to have an intention. Yeah. And so they kept on winning, and nowhere, apart from diary entries of astounded officers and diary entries of onlookers, civilian onlookers, were their deeds recorded and pieced together. They were amazing. Of course, after the war, what was left was split up and sent to various different farms to work because they were emancipated, but they weren't given a fair go. They were then sharecroppers, which basically meant they were in debt to their masters for the rest of their life, and their children inherited their debt, which is just bloody.
Yes, you go from slavery to indentured servitude, which is, barely recognizable as any different.
Everybody's happy with that. And that's why you get the Jim Crow laws of the bloody 50s, because, they were so used to having ignorant black people. And, fuck's sake. There was even, look, I could go on for this forever, and I won't. I wanted to talk about the size of my dick.
Speaking about going on forever, hey.
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
It's shrunk. It's shrunk.
Okay.
And I was disgusted with this because I've put on weight. What was happening in hospital was they were giving me 3 squares a day. Yeah. And I only eat once a day. and fairly sparingly at that. What they do for you in hospital is they want you to bulk up because it makes your body more able to fight off disease. There was a guy next to me who was skinny as a rake and would eat everything on his plate, and he was going backwards, and everybody knew it. The guy across from me and I used to give each other shit 24 hours a day. But then as soon as anything happened, we'd be right in there going, I'll get that for you, man. Like if any one of us slipped, it'd be like, right, get a towel under his head. Are you feeling this? Are you feeling that? Do you want to lift up? And then, of course, we'd get in shit for being out of bed. But, you know, I was really lucky in hospital. I had really good humoured people, except for one bed, because there's 4. Yes. One bed every time was filled with a shithead. And by about the second week, I lost my patience with shithead, and the abuse started. Now the other guys said, just try and keep it PG, and I went, yeah, righto. I will. In that case, listen, I was about to say his name, person, you're a fornicating pedophile. Try and find the buzzer yourself. And I want 2 slices of toast with Vegemite on. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to get them. Press the friggin' buzzer, or I'm going to go over there and press the buzzer on your face. I can't find it. It's on your pillow. I can't find it. And what it was he was this baby boomer piece of shit that was used to the women doing everything for him. Because he was really happy when the nurses were around doing stuff for him. But when they weren't, he'd go, nurse, nurse, nurse. As we say, ring the buzzer. Ring the buzzer, you prick. And then finally, one of us would ring the buzzer and go, it's for dickhead. And then he fucking gave these nurses a serve for waiting to be helped. Yeah. And I've gone, hang on, I only just pressed the buzzer. And they've turned up immediately. You were told to press your buzzer and you didn't. Yes, but I had to wait half an hour for what I wanted. You didn't press your buzzer. And so anyway, happily, one of the tougher nurses and one of the tougher doctors came around and fucking got right up him for going the nurses. Good. I also asked this tougher nurse to fucking, could you have a chat to him? Because he's got up the nurses for doing this thing. And that wasn't fair on them. They were quite upset. They came immediately and he abused them for being late. And I just thought that was out of line.
Out of line, definitely. So I'd say hi to John. And that's saying she needs a lot of Cosmos. I don't know if you mean you want to watch the Neil deGrasse Tyson reboot of the Carl Sagan, or you just want to see. Oh no! I just realized you mean Cosmos. And then Naira is talking about what cocktail are we having, and that's having multiple cosmopolitans tonight. Why not? Why not? Indeed.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, in the
Let me tell you another drink you want, because I just in my book, this is when I first started making cocktails like 2 years ago. Mrs. Angry got me this for Christmas, and it's a great fucking book. And I haven't made everything in here because there's a lot of cocktails in here. But this guy also tells history and stuff. But I was looking for, because I got this new aged rum on speculation, 7-year-old. Where's it from? It's It's a famous name in the funky rums, Flor de Cana, which literally just means sugarcane flour. 7-year, slow aged. These guys have been around forever. It's actually made in Nicaragua, so it's not really a Caribbean rum. It's made in Nicaragua, but it's a very well-known. The distillery's been around for ages. I thought I need to find a drink recipe that says, hey, use an aged rum in this. So I found this one in this book called 2070 Swizzle, which is a fun name. I don't know where the 2070 comes from, but so it said 1 ounce of aged rum. So I did the Flor de Cana. 1 ounce of overproof rum, and I have plantation overproof, so I did that. Sugar syrup, a little bit of allspice liqueur, or it's also called pimento dram, the one I have, because apparently the pimento berry has such a cavalcade of flavors. It was known as the allspice berry, and it's not spiced like chili spice. It's spiced like Christmas pudding spices.
Yeah,
it's like a liquid Christmas pudding, basically.
I've actually had it. I've got it.
It's really good. It's really good.
Stunning. You drink it and you just go, what's going on here?
Yeah.
When I first heard that Americans have pimento ice cream, I thought, that's stupid. And then I had a pimento ice cream and went, America's good at stuff.
Yeah. Confectionery, they're good at. And it also has a couple drops of absinthe and a couple drops of bitters. And so I made that. Oh my God, it's good. Like it's a comparatively simple drink. A couple different rums, sugar syrup, the allspice dram, and a couple drops of absinthe, a couple drops of, it's good. That's one you need to have. It's good.
That's just stunning.
Yeah.
That's just stunning.
Annette, this is a good book, but also when we're not locked down and we're also just allowed to go out and about one time, we should, we might even pick up Aidsy, who knows, because it's in his neighbourhood. The shop in Fitzroy.
And he'll be in the front and he'll behave himself to a point.
Yeah, well, I've taken you into the bitters lab before. It has all the cocktail gear in there and a million different sorts of bitters, but they also have this big selection of cocktail books as well.
And they also have a big sign saying Aidsy's not allowed to touch anything.
Yeah. At a certain point, I had to say, Aidsy, don't even stand near the glassware, okay? I know you're not touching it, but, just don't be in the vicinity of the glassware.
Behind the back. Behind the back.
Ooh, John's going to have a Sailor Jerry and sarsaparilla. That sounds like a fine bev. And hello, Kirsten. Hello. Oh, John wanted to know what I was having. It was a Rolling Stones inspired drink called the Jumpin' Jack Flash, which I've since finished, or a little drop. So the Jumpin' Jack Flash was 1.5 shots of whiskey. They said Tennessee whiskey. I actually used Australian whiskey. Half a shot of banana liqueur, half a shot of Galliano, 3/4 of a shot orange juice. I used blood orange juice, 3/4 a shot pineapple juice, and it was really good. It was definitely really good. Philip, hello. Philip Suter, how you doing, buddy?
Phil, you're loved.
Very much. And so Annette, we should get together one time. So I don't know, 8 weeks from now, when we're allowed to just move around, and go to the Bitters Lab and look at what they have, because it's a really cool place.
Angry?
Yes.
A thought is forming in my head.
Well, that's scary.
A thought is forming that we should find a venue and everybody should bring a couple of bottles to have cocktail night.
Yeah.
And we should organise this. Sorry?
That isn't something I'd say no to.
And we should organise this.
Yeah.
Because I've heard you can do this, right? There are some train stations at the end of lines, right, that are no longer used, that have buildings in them for staff. So what you can do is you can charter these, or rent for the night these buildings.
Yeah.
And basically they've got all mod cons, toilets, sinks, you name it. And it's on a train line.
Yeah.
And you can request 3 or 4 trains there and 3 or 4 trains out. So essentially what I'm saying is it doesn't matter how fucked up people get. They're on the train line, getting home, not driving.
Yeah.
And we can have coconut tail night ahoy. And as long as we're on the last train home or go on a weekend.
Yeah, that's a look. There were lots of venues you could do this. Stella is inviting us to her place, which I assume is in Western Australia. If us pox-ridden Victorians are ever allowed to associate with the rest of the country,
I don't think we're allowed out.
No,
no one's allowing us out.
Not for months. It's not. People aren't going to be comfortable with us for months. It's so funny because I swear to God, every active case in the rest of the country for the last month, when they go, "Oh, we've detected a new case. It came from someone from Victoria who was travelling," and some Victorians and Melbourneites are feeling set upon when people go, "Ooh, you Victorians are all diseased." I laugh every time. It's just like the latest news story. Oh, I just laugh. And every fucking active case in the rest of the country seems to have some trace back to Victoria. It's wild.
I can just imagine Daniel Andrews sitting in his office going, "Christ, we've nearly done it. We've nearly done it." And then the 2 medical officers coming in and saying, "Mr. Andrews."
Yeah.
And he's going, "Jesus, no, Jesus, no, Jesus, no, Jesus, no. What is it?" Because I know that tone. We've had a local infection spread. You told me about this. You told me about this a week ago. It made me cry then.
Yeah.
Do I need to cry now? Actually. Because it's gotten out of control. When was it ever in control? Never really was.
Never really. Oh my God, the fucking conservative media talking heads and the absolute fucking shit stains in the Victorian Liberal Party. There's one guy in particular who is definitely fancying himself as a mini Donald Trump. He's a fucking piece of shit. And they went for ages from saying, Daniel Andrews is a tyrant who won't let people out. And they're like, oh, it's Daniel Andrews' fault. This outbreak is like they have no shame about directly contradicting themselves. And like they've really fixated. You remember the story about the private security guards on the hotel where returning people were quarantined? And it turns out they were fucking the people in supposed quarantine to let them out. And that wasn't good. That was one source of outbreak. And they're really fixated on that. That's Andrew's fault. He just didn't use proper security. Could have used the army. Could you imagine these Liberal Party fuckheads if ahead of time, with no evidence, Andrews has said, I'm bringing the army to keep people in line. Private companies can't be trusted. Private companies.
You know what else?
Private companies will just let their guys fuck the people in court. They would have lost their fucking mind if you said the army is better than private enterprise.
Andrews wanted to use the police, right? He wanted to use a limited amount of police to do it.
Yeah.
And fucking the federal government said, no, because you'll need more money. You can use private security. You can use our private security firm. Here you go. Yeah. And now he's copped all the shit for fucking ScoMo's fucking decision. Yeah. I would have fucking jumped up and down on the walls and said ScoMo did it.
Yeah, but you imagine how the fucking Liberal Party would react if you said private enterprise is incapable, the army has to do, like basically the government has to do everything because private enterprise can't be trusted. They would have lost their tiny little inbred minds. And the shamelessness of the hypocrisy and just politicizing a public health crisis.
Another disaster.
Yeah. A public health crisis that we haven't seen the likes of for 100 years. And they're just trying to score cheap political points, and they're causing division, and they're muddying the waters with what's good advice and what's. They're just fucking scum. They are
they're
the
scum,
fucking worst.
and they're making bloody sure that the only people who get sick are from the West,
Yeah,
and not them mates in the East. They're making bloody sure that all the resources are going to their mates in the East.
yeah,
They're making bloody sure that that the information that's getting out is to make fear. And you know what else is they're every time they get asked a question about the fire, because there's new information coming out about ScoMo's fuck ups about the fire.
People are still living in tents. People whose houses burnt down are still living in tents.
Information coming up about how he fucked up the fires
Yeah.
and then went to Hawaii. They immediately go straight to COVID.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even answer the fucking question. They go straight to COVID. Oh, well, Daniel Andrews has fucked up COVID. It's like, yeah, that's great and not true. But, look, let's look at it this way. If we swapped places and we said that Daniel Andrews, through some kind of time warp vector, had not been in place, and ScoMo had been the Premier of Victoria, he would have gone straight to his PR guys first, and then basically his medical people next, and the thing would have taken off in such fashion as to be an utter disaster, an American-style disaster. And no one's giving Andrews any credit for being fucking balanced, reasonable, and what's the way of my camera? Oh, chocolate. That's no good. Being balanced, fair, and reasonable. And they're picking up on points that weren't even his fucking fault. It's just disgusting. And every time he says something like, guys, we're going to have to go into lockdown again. You did it before and it sucked. You're going to have to do it again. I'm sorry. But otherwise, we're going to die. And I'll give Australians this much. Jesus, they've been good.
Yeah.
They've been good. The social distancing has been not a problem. Yes, there are a few fucking assholes that abuse shopkeepers early on, but that's stopped. People are being a lot more patient about the time that it takes to get stuff now. I think people are actually being a lot more patient because they're enjoying the extra time out. Because if you've got to wait in a shop for half an hour, it's like, I don't have to be at home right now. I'm looking at pretty things. There's a pretty girl looking at me. Do you want to share some COVID? They say, I don't know how real this is. This is a rumor. They say that condom sales have gone up. And that's
people haven't been able to associate, though. It's only there was that period that only lasted for a couple of weeks, which is not to say people weren't shagging. They actually just weren't meant to. I have to admit, I laugh, though, the outbreak in New South Wales that traces to this pub in Casula out near Campbelltown. The first two, when they went, there were these two people, a man and a woman, who weren't known to each other but were there on the same night, and they both subsequently tested positive. Just the way they were saying it in the news, they went, and the two people, and they weren't known to each other, but they were there on the same night. Why they fucked in the public's toilet stall, we'll never know. But
I know.
That just sounded like a night out in Casula to me.
Have you ever been on an XPT train?
Yes. Bit of shenanigans goes on trains.
Amazing, because you'll meet someone, you'll have a great conversation, and they'll look at you, and then you look at them and you go, we've got 6 hours to go. Want to do something. She usually suggests it. Do you want to do something about it? And you go, oh, we're on a train. There's a toilet.
Yeah.
Let's go. And, you wipe enough down. It's enough.
Yeah, there's usually one that's big enough for people with a wheelchair, and so you've got a bit of maneuvering space in there.
You don't need wheelchair.
you just
don't need
the
wheelchair.
stall good enough for you. Yeah,
because basically there's a little bench you can sit on.
Hey, say no more.
And if you can organise yourself to put a foot up on the pan, you're fine.
Okay, well, that's when you're much younger than me. In my younger days, I'd get into flexible bloody positions like that. These days, it's like, my knees.
No, even now, I've seen fucking pensioners walk out of fucking public toilets with stupid grins and embarrassed looks on their face and go,
Yeah.
good on your kids.
Yeah.
I know what they've been up to, and
Good
on them.
Yeah. You remember the mail train from Bathurst to Sydney when we were in Bathurst? It was this overnight, incredibly archaic diesel train that you'd go overnight, and it's like 8 hours. Did that trip with my girlfriend more than once, and you get bored about halfway through.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because they had old-fashioned carriages. They all had,
with the little door that you shut for privacy.
And the signal always was you pulled the curtain halfway down on the door and all the way down on the sides, and the conductors would not bother you. They would know, let them go. And then when you're done and you'd cleaned up, you put the curtains back up, and the conductor comes back and says, tea, coffee?
Yes.
Yes, a cup of coffee would be lovely.
Yes.
About now? How do you
when
have
you're
it?
Overnight train for 8 hours with nothing to do. So, there you go. So,
yeah.
Hey, buddy, I want you to help me with something because
Okay.
I got to make a video for my cocktail channel. Been a bit late, but Bastille Day is the 14th, so in 2 days. So I'm going to do some French cocktails. So I've got this website recommending a bunch of potential French cocktails, and I'm narrowing it down to a couple. I want to know which ones sound better to you. This one I think of just because it's called the Champs-Élysées, and I just always think of that song. You know the song, the Champs-Élysées is a busy place. That's Art v Science, an Australian band. Parlez-vous français? Woo, parlez-vous? Yeah, but anyway, but the Champs-Élysées actually sounds like an okay. It's got cognac, green chartreuse, lemon juice, sugar syrup, and bitters. This one actually sounds kind of interesting. Le Tour Eiffel, aka the Eiffel Tower, of course.
Eiffel Tower.
Cognac, triple sec, gentian liqueur, and absinthe. Which I'm kind of leaning towards that one. It's one called
kind of French, isn't it?
Yeah, one called a very French martini. Has cognac, black raspberry liqueur, and pineapple juice. This is kind of okay. Ooh,
No.
This one interests me as well. Purgatory à la Française. So it's like a Frenchman's purgatory, apparently. But it's got cognac, whiskey, yellow chartreuse, and Punt de Metz, which is an Italian vermouth that's halfway towards being like a bitter aperitif. So I'm kind of... Maybe I'll do both. The two that I'm leaning most towards are the Eiffel Tower, Le Tour Eiffel, and Purgatory à la Française.
Yeah, I think those are the two.
Yeah?
I think those are the two that you need to do.
Yeah.
So and I also think that you need to do a showpiece where you drip some high test alcohol into some green fairy and light the sugar cube.
Oh God, yeah, the classic absinthe drip.
Because that's the way they used to do the opium.
Yeah,
and of course you don't have access to any opium.
So, no, not really.
It still looks. It's very French. It's very French, and
Sorry, John's
It,
just asking how long I've had a cocktail channel. A couple months. I've just started off, so it's quite small because it's the first new channel I've started in 10 years. Like AZ Code Grey was probably the last new channel I set up, and that was 10 years ago. So starting off small, but I make cocktails and 2 or 3 a week. And I like to theme them, but Bastille Day is such a good day because there are so many French themed cocktails. Yeah, I think I'll do the Eiffel Tower and Purgatory à la Française. So they're both cognac. I get to use quite Australian things in there because Triple C, I've got an Australian Curacao I can sub in. Gentian I can substitute in Ochar Gold, which is Australian, and Absinthe. And the Purgatory à la Française is cognac, which I have French cognac. Whiskey, I'd probably use Australian whiskey again. Yellow chartreuse, I'd probably use the Ochar Gold again. And Punta Mez, which I have, which is a very special. It's one of those things, because it's such a cool name, Puntemes, Punta Mez, and it was just such a cool name, and it was showing up in so many cocktail recipes. I decided I had to have it, and it's an Italian aromatized wine, so it's like a cross between vermouth and one of those bitter Italian aperitifs. It's not as bitter as the bitter aperitifs, but it's not just a straight vermouth either. So it's a really interesting flavor. So I've got that. I reckon I'll do that. Oh, John wants to know, how are you going with the ban on e-cig juice? Ignoring it, I assume.
Interestingly enough, there is a way around it.
Yeah, which is not what I'd call legal.
I will also say to you at this time that the police, which are a block away from my shop, use my shop to get their e-cig juice. The reason for this is that police may not smell of smoke in front of the public.
Okay. That's a very old law. Yep.
But they've fucking got to smoke. So they're all onto the e-cigs. And so they go to my shop to get their juice. And the way that the juice is formed, imported, mixed, and flavored it goes around every single law, right? Okay, yeah. You're not allowed to import juice whole. You're allowed to make as much flavor as you want. You're not allowed to import nicotine whole. You've got to dilute it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just an invitation to get drums of fucking nicotine in. Also, there's two types of nicotine. There's salts, and there's bloody concentrates. Yeah. The concentrates are like an epoxy.
Yeah.
And the epoxy determines the strength of the nicotine.
Yeah.
And because both of the epoxy ingredients are completely legal, they're mixed on site. They're put in the tubs. They're given to you, and away you go. The police have these knowing that they're completely in the clear. The AZ has these knowing that he's completely in the clear. There's this weird thing going on between doctors, right?
Yeah.
The doctors are going, there is now no evidence after 10 years of any deaths associated with e-cigs that were e-cigs that were used in the normal manner. There are 5 deaths associated with e-cigs where people modified their e-cig so that it was like smoking 20 cigarettes at once.
That was all in the US, I think. It was again, you're right. It was people who fucked with the e-cig to get a mass, and I think almost all of them were also cannabis that they were putting it in to get a much stronger hit. And
They
killed them.
they did that, and they got their much stronger hit. But then they did it with nicotine, and they got nicotine poisoning and died.
Yeah.
Because if you take on that much nicotine, you die.
Yes, it is a poison. It is a poison. It's really good in gardens. It kills lots of things.
And, my dad used to give me money to go and buy packets of Winfield Red and then dump the cigarettes in a bucket and basically scrunch them up.
Yeah.
And then he'd get this brown liquid.
Yeah.
And he'd put it in his watering can and he'd go through and kill all the aphids and kill all the pests.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it's not even considered a pesticide because it's a natural product that immediately biodegrades.
Yeah.
The other thing was that when I was smoking and when Ross was smoking, my brother was smoking, he used to have a little screw top juice bottle, like orange juice bottle. And he'd put water in it and we'd have to put all our butts in there, right? Not only to keep the place clean, but the butts have nicotine in them.
Yes.
And he'd wait till they were full, he'd strain it, put it in his watering can and then go through and water his plants.
Yeah, it's like...
And he said a fucking bucket full of nicotine is still the cheapest pesticide you can get. Unfortunately, it doesn't get everything, so you've got to buy other stuff to get everything. So it's poisonous.
Yeah, and like how weird are humans? Because the tobacco plant secretes a poison that stops aphids and whatnot munching on it. And some humans at some point went, I just like the way that smells, and I see that it's a poison. But what if, and bear with me here, what if I crunched it up and lit it on fire and inhaled that, even though I know it's a poison? Do you reckon that's a good idea? And his mate went,
you know what?
Anything's good once.
I reckon you're onto something here. Because I'd like to get deeply fucked up. Because watching the prairie every day is starting to get on my nerves.
Yes.
And listening to Stans with a yelling, nagging voice all day, which is her tribal name, is starting also to get on my nerves. And the law against punching fuck out of women remains with me. But I can't go on walkabout again till 6 months. So, I'd like to get fucked up. So I think I'm going to get some medicine plants and this new tobacco thing and put them together. And when I wake up in 3 days, go, I saw God. He's got some messages for us. Shaman, you need this recipe and you've got to make more sense out of what the gods were telling me. And then they do that. Do you know that in the old Viking times, what they would do is they would get the shaman to concoct the juice and then he would drink it. And then he would drink a lot of water as well so he didn't get poisoned.
So he didn't die.
And then he would piss in the snow. In a zigzag or roundabout pattern. And the warriors would come and drink the piss and get wildly fucked up. And that was where we get the term pissed from.
Yeah. Stranger things have happened. But also it's like not just tobacco, like chilies. Again, it's a plant that specifically secretes a really painful, burny oil to keep predator species from eating it. And a human at one point bites it and goes, ow, it burns, it hurts. I want more of that. It's just like, what? I actually want to feel pain while I eat. Eating had got boring. I want pain.
When they found that they cooked it with various different other meats, because I mean, if you're eating stew of ox every
day, yeah,
and you're telling the wife this has got to get better, or I'm going to do something drastic, and she's desperate to make any dish fucking edible for the boys because they've got to go out and hunt tomorrow and they need to eat everything. And if they don't eat everything, they're not going to get a kill. If they don't going to get it killed and the babies are going to die, we're in deep shit. And so they try and spice it up. They go out into the forest and they get things. And it is suggested that turkey and cranberry sauce was known 25,000 years ago. There are Australian Indigenous recipes that are slowly coming to light. They had a form of possum pie.
Yeah.
And the pie was made from the inner lining of the stomach of either a kangaroo or a possum.
Yeah.
And that was lightly toasted. Then the possum meat and gravy, which was formed from other plants and spices, was poured into the pie. The thing was wrapped over, and they'd make like a dozen of these, and then they'd wrap them in wet bark, wet paper bark, put them in the coals, wait till the steam had stopped and the bark was starting to singe, get it out, get it on wooden plates, and get everyone and warriors especially to eat the possum pie. And apparently, as the possum pies were cooking, people would come from all around going, would that be possum pie? Yes, we're having possum pie for dinner, and we're having gojo nuts for dessert with some berries. Oh, how long is this going to be? Long enough for you to do the cleaning. Right. Would it be sooner than that? No. Go and do the cleaning, then you can have some possum pie. And it was a meal that they loved. They would do, there's 100 recipes for kangaroo. There's 100 recipes for wallaby. They had vegetarians. Can you believe that? They had vegetarians, and vegetarians ate plant food and with medicine plants, so that they got enough nutrients and vitamins to be active members. But these were people who politically decided they didn't want to eat meat. They'd go and hunt it, but they didn't want to eat it. You just go, oh yeah, primitive society.
No, there were
not so primitive.
An indigenous yam. Well, it's basically an indigenous version of a sweet potato, essentially. And there were native rices, native grains. Again, this is the book Dark Emu, Bruce Pascoe's book, is stunning. Just like going to primary sources, the journals of the early colonists, who actually didn't really understand what they were describing, but they described it nevertheless. And they were finding stores of grain, and not just grain, but of flour. The local people actually ground the grain down into flour, and they had silos for it, these clay storage things to store it in, and they would make a flat bread out of that. Or as you say, like, cook meat up and have it pie type stuff. And they had huge amounts of cultivated native rices, and it's not really wheat, but it's a very close native approximation of wheat.
They would send the boys who were going on walkabout with a thing that very much resembled a falafel. And they would send them out with 6-8 of these, knowing that for the first 3 or 4 days, they wouldn't have to hunt bird.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to find food.
Mm.
And they had enough water in their sack to last them to easily get to the next hole.
Yeah.
And to get into the swing of having to pound, observe, walk every day. Have you ever had mutton bird AIDS? Yes.
It's a bit greasy.
Never again.
Yeah.
It's
a bit
tough.
greasy.
You boil up the mutton bird with a shoe, and then you eat the shoe.
Eat the shoe. Yeah. There was another funny bit in Pascoe's book, Dark Emu, down our way. The saltwater people and down south were very big into abalone, which is, of course, these days recognised as a delicacy. The British had never heard of it. And when the local people went, this is good eating, they went, we'll see. And they did that classic of British cuisine and boiled it, which turned it to rubber. And they just went, this is gross and horrible. No wonder you pathetic, primitive savages like it. And the locals are going, whatever, dude. And then they're going and cooking it over hot coals with local herbs and spices on it and making an absolute fucking delicacy. And the British, because all they did was literally throw it in boiling water. And
well, that's all they knew how to do. That was all British
that's all they knew how to do.
It was boil everything. Bloody one of the things I have been honoured to do was eat tree worms that grow in mangrove swamps.
Yes.
And you take these bloody things out. They're like 30 and 50 centimetres long.
Yeah.
And then you drop it in your mouth, sucking the juice out as you go. And you look at this thing the first time and you go, I am going to hurl. And then you do it because you don't look like a poofter in front of everyone else. And then you do it and you go, that is crab meat mixed with wood, mixed with the scent of fire, mixed with some other herb I don't understand.
Yeah.
And you go, And it's a little bit like a Slurpee straw. You've got to be really careful because if you suck too hard, you'll flatten it. And you've got to sort of push it down. So you've got to really patiently suck the juice out. And then with the skin, you take it out and you hang it on the tree and dry it. Yeah. And then you come back a couple of days later, take it off the tree, and you put it in the equivalent of a stir fry. Oh, my God. I've also eaten live witchetty grub, cooked witchetty grub. You can't eat live bogong moths because the buggers try and fly away. They just don't want to get eaten.
Yeah, just throw them cold.
Yeah. I've eaten cooked
burns off
bogong
the
moths.
wings and burns off the fuzz, and then it kind of tastes like nuts.
And it's just, oh my God, it's just, how did I not know this was here? And it's everywhere. I mean, when I became homeless in Canberra, I realised that I was surrounded by food.
Yeah.
Natural bush food. And you have to supplement it with beef. So you have to go and buy a Big Mac every now and again. You have to go and eat a rat every now and again. And people fucking always go, he ate rats, that's disgusting, he's freaking blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, you eat cows, and the process of dressing the meat is pretty much similar. And I tell you what else, if you get enough rat skins together, and sew them together, you will have a set of boots that when you jump out of your hammock onto cold, wet grass, you will find that your feet remain dry so that you can tiptoe to another tree and make sure no cops are watching and have your piss.
Yeah.
and then tiptoe back to your hammock and climb up into it. Why the hammock? All right. If you're going to
Keep off
sleep
the
in a park,
ground?
hey,
To keep off the ground?
not only that, but to keep out of sight.
Ah,
Remember that you're existing in a community of people who will kill you for $5,
yeah.
right? And then once they've done that, everyone who's around will strip your body bare of anything of value. So when the cops come around and find you dead, they will have found that everything is gone, except for maybe your underwear, sort of. But they pull that down in case you've been hiding money or stuff up your ass. Nice. They also do that in case you've been hiding money or stuff or drugs up your foreskin. Nice. They basically put cut lines in your hair in case you've been hiding anything in there. It's just horrific. And so you don't want to be around that community. So one of the best, and also the cops will come around at 4 o'clock in the morning just as you're dozing off and go, "Oh, you've got to move on." It's like, I just got fucking settled. So what you do is you get your hammock and you get a three line system going. So you've got an ape's nest, and then you get your hammock all set up. And then you climb up it, and you set up your hammock so it's in the canopy, so that when the cops come past, they just simply don't see you. So that when miscreants come past, they simply don't see you. And if you get really clever about it, you can get a relief tube, and you can basically coil it around the tree that you're on. And when you go, "Oh, I'm really comfortable, but I don't want to go anywhere," you just into the relief tube, and it's like, oh, and then back into the sleeping bag, and you're fine until morning. And then when morning comes, the takedown is really easy. You've got to wrap your sleeping bag first in the hammock where it's dry, and then you basically get your pack and you put it halfway down the tree. Then you do the slip knots on your hammock. That's the only trouble. If the cops are wise to you, they'll undo one of the slip knots on your hammock and you'll end up on your feet or on your head on the ground real quick. And they go, "You're not allowed to sleep in the park." I was like, "Okay, you've made your point and given me concussion. Can I go to hospital?" "Yeah, sure, get your stuff," which was nice. Going to hospital was nice. And in the morning, they don't get, and so you get to hospital and go, "You need a shower." "Yes, I do." And obviously, you're going to court, so you'll need a haircut. Also true. And you'll need a full, thorough medical checkup and a vitamin shot. This is also something that is real. Are you on any substances? Yes, I am. Well, we can't give you those substances, but we can give you things that will calm you down. I am a fan. So they give you all this stuff, which is just wonderful. It takes about an hour to set you up, and then they put you to bed. And you wake up in the morning and they've washed your clothes, which is the nicest thing. And you get into clean clothes after sleeping in a clean bed. It's the best sleep you've ever had. And they give you breakfast. And then it's like, yeah, the medical team's coming around. It's really time to go. And then you get your stuff and you go.
Yeah.
And you see all the other guys that have been arrested during the night. Usually they do the arresting when it's like -5, -8, and they arrest everybody for vagrancy. And then they give them medical checkups. And the medical checkups are the best. And sometimes they just get the old fellas and then take them straight to the lockup and make them have a shower and make them have a haircut because they're going to court in the morning. And the doctor comes around and checks them out. And sometimes the doctor will say, actually, this guy's quite sick. I remember I was caught in one of the roundups and it was -8 and I was fucking freezing in my really good sleeping bag. The coppers found my suspended hammock and then called me down, and they pulled one of the slip knots and down I came. I packed everything up and then they took me into the station. The doctor checked me out and they said, well, you've been arrested, so you've got to have a haircut and a shave. Thank you. And a lovely shower. Oh, God, that shower was good. And soap. The simple things you miss. The simple things you miss.
Yeah.
And toothpaste. Just the simple things you miss. And so after that, I had gowns and they washed my clothes, which is really nice. They didn't have to do that. And then they found that there wasn't enough evidence for my court case and that I should go. Thank you. And that I should try and get in contact with my family. Not an option at that time.
Yeah.
But I was with one guy and the doctor came around and he said, I want some blood tests done now. And he got some blood tests done. And he said, I want to go to the infirmary now. And he went to the infirmary and the old fella come back and said, geez, they're making a lot of fuss over nothing. And they came back to this guy and said, buddy, listen, you have stage 4 cancer. You have cancer all through your body. It must hurt like crazy. Oh, that's just getting old. I'm going to give you an injection now and we'll see how much it doesn't hurt after that. So they gave him some pethidine and some dimorphine and he just went, oh, that feels so good. And they said, matey, we suggest you come with us to hospital because you're not going to last another 2 days out here. And we would like to make you as comfortable as possible. Stage 4 cancer, you're fucked. It's over. And they put this old man and they gave him a hospital bed and some dignity and some food, you know, all the nice things. And they tried to contact his family. And it was really sweet watching these coppers really, you know, fucking put the extra yard in, because there was no ambulances available to take him to the hospital, so they put him in the party bus in a stretcher, and they took him straight up to Canberra Hospital in that, and they put him straight in oncology, and you know, for the first time in a long time, I'm sure he had nurses asking him things like, do you want a cuppa? Yeah. Do you want a cigarette? Do you want this? Do you want that? And he was going, oh, yes, please. That'd be nice. Yeah. Right. And, you know.
People are really getting into foraging ideas. People in the chat are really getting into your foraging ideas. Yeah. The food thing you were saying.
There's so much around, guys. There's so much around. Insects that are bigger than your thumb, cook them, take the carapace off, and anything that's solid is edible. So grubs of all kind are edible. Yeah. Worms of all kind are edible.
What you're saying about crab meat is interesting, because if you crack open an uncooked crab, it's mostly liquid inside, but when you cook it, you get that white meat thing, which is the same as the witchetty grubs. If you crack open a live witchetty grub, it's just goo, but if you cook it, it's very similar to crab meat.
Yes.
So it goes solid. Tastes like nuts,
gum or red gum or whatever tree it's been eating.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, it's got the oils from what it's been eating in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just awesome.
David was still looking for French cocktails and found one on the Difford site called the Guillotine, which is a fun name for a cocktail, definitely, the Guillotine. I just looked it up because I saw Dave mention it, and it's just a boring cocktail, though. It's creme de cassis, so like a berry liqueur, Puer William Eau de Vie, which is like the precursor to brandy, and topped with champagne. I just find that one boring. That was actually, sorry, about eau de vie, which is like a precursor to brandy. When I was doing some cocktails for Cognac Day a while ago, and that was the first time I realized the precursor spirit for brandy in French is called eau de vie, which is water of life. And of course, what's whiskey? The Irish word for whiskey is oiscabaha, water of life. Other parts of Europe have aquavit, again, water of life. The English used the Latin name for whiskey. They called it aquavitae, water of life. I just love how many people call booze the water of life. I think that's fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Ooh, but it's almost bedtime.
By the way, leave you with a teaser. Looks like
I like being teased.
Was invented as an accidental mistake from brewing beer.
That makes sense. The yeast byproduct, The
yeast byproduct. Yeah. And instead of throwing it away, they thought, chuck it on the fucking fire.
Cook
see
it.
What happens. Fuck, I don't know. And they've made a primitive form of bread and gone, fuck, this is all right. Because, you can't afford to throw anything away.
Yeah.
So throw it on the fire. See what happens. And it's like, this is all right. So then they trial and error, perfect the bread making and discover that the bread making will fill and nutrish just about anyone. Another bit of trivia before we bail. You've heard about the upper crust?
Yes.
Well, that came from the time when there were no plates. So what people would do is they would eat their food on bread, on flat bread. And so they would cut the bread in half, flat in half. And the more important guests would get the upper crust because it would retain more juice and food. And the less important riffraff would get the lower crust because it'd sog through more easily and you'd have to scarf it down. And these were great for feasts because you could make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things and never run out. And when someone called, ale, food, you could just whack down some crust and get them to buffet some slumgullet on their food. Those Vikings, fuck, man, they knew how to get it done.
What's another one like happy accidents? A popular theory about the origins of cheese is that someone was traveling and they'd taken milk with them to drink along the way, and the container was a sheep's stomach that had been made into a drink bladder, and there's rennet on the lining of the sheep's stomach, which reacts with the milk and curdles it. And they didn't know, and someone got to their destination and went to drink milk and it curdled, and they go, oh no, my milk's ruined. And they looked at the solid bit, which is the curds, which is the precursor of cheese, and they went, that's okay. I like that.
That's actually not too bad.
And so then they experimented with doing it on purpose and realized they could bring in flavors, and that's the popular theory of how cheese was born. Although it evolved so slowly over such a long period of time, no one's really sure. But that's a popular theory.
The other thing is that they found that the whey, which is, the big waste product, collected and basically cooked up a little bit, could be then fed to calves. And would bulk them up. And they would grow faster and fatter. And if you wanted milk calves, you'd keep going for a while. If you wanted milk calves, like steers, you'd basically lop their nuts off and feed them whey.
To bulk them up.
And then they realised that you could make whey powder so that you could scoop whey powder into their feed
Yeah.
in winter so
Mm.
that they wouldn't fucking starve.
Yeah.
Oh, the Swiss, the things they don't know
The,
about
the
food.
things they do. And also whey, I'm a big fan of because when I make the milk clarified cocktails, the curds separate out and they actually filter the drink, but the whey goes through, which gives the drink a little bit of extra viscosity, which makes it feel very different when you drink it. And it's the tits, man. It's so good. It's got this silky, or if I think oily is a really negative word, but it is. You even see it when you pour it. This is thicker than a spirit, but it feels so good going down. Anyway, John, thanks for the stream. We thank you for attending, John. We thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for letting me be on your device, people. I really appreciate it. And look, you guys have a great day.
Yeah,
and we will see you very soon.
Very soon.
The calming CBD has worked very well.
Nice.
And I shall be finishing it off with the because I'm weaning off the benzos, and
which is
so
a good thing
I'm
to do. Yeah.
the recommended slow down benzo dose, and geez, it's working well. I'm not craving the benzos as much as I do, and I'm being so calm.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, lots of good things are happening.
Oh, excellent stuff, man. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellente. Oh, well, all you fine people, take care.
Have the best one. Love you guys. Thank you very much for letting me be on your device.
And we'll see you sometime soon. Good night. Bye.